Are you slow on that end? Oh, there we are. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to Together We Rise, our weekly Wednesday Rise Up call. As always, every Wednesday night, we are so fired up to be here with all of you. So thank you so much for taking this hour out of your evening to be here with us. It absolutely lights us up all of the time. Jen's internet is being a little bit finicky, so bear with us here tonight. But Together We Rise is a global community here to connect, share, and empower each other on our journey of well-being, mind, body, and soul. And our intention is to raise the collective frequency through education, inspiration, and community, creating a ripple effect throughout our individual communities. And in unison with the Start Your Life movement, our vision is to ignite all people to own their lives, both physically and financially. And through our contributions, create freedom and a lasting legacy. And tonight we are going to chat a little bit more about what the F is alignment. So Jen is going to take it away after this. And our core values are in alignment with Isogenics. And they are health, empowerment, integrity, community, innovation, ease, and combining all of these pillars to create an epic experience for us here on this beautiful planet that we live on.
Thank you, Laura. How's my internet? Am I choppy?
It's a little bit delayed, but we can hear you clearly.
All right, my friends, just one second. Let me see if I can find a hotspot quickly.
Usually BMC internet's like on fire.
I know. Is it better?
Oh, maybe. Oh, where'd she go? She gone. Sure, she'll be back. I hope she's going to be back because I don't even know what we're talking about today. I'm like, Jen, you start it off and then I'll just follow your lead. Like, this is perfect. It's interesting because her internet is usually like perfect, but I'm sure she'll just hop on her data and be back with us here shortly. So buckle up. Jen is on fire and just wanting to chat. So you know it's going to be a good evening. So good. Does anybody have anything to share? Like now that we've got this kind of like open floor, like how's everybody's week been? Like what are some things that you're struggling with, things that are going on? Anything that you kind of want to just open up that throat chakra and get out in this space?
I've had a really long week. It's been like 4 a.m. wake ups, like ridiculous. Everyone in my other business that I'm in right now wants everything for Christmas. It's like next week's the last week, so everyone is, well, because COVID, I have a bunch of suppliers in Toronto and everyone is not operating the way they normally would, and so like I keep getting roadblocked and I'm like, well, I don't know why I have gray hairs. It's because of you guys. Like, and it's all like, sometimes I think it's just an excuse, and sometimes I think it's just like it's real. So it's like, but it's so frustrating. Like it's been like, you know what? And I have customers, like I own a kitchen company as well, right? And so I have customers with no kitchen, and they really will want to have a kitchen for Christmas. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure if you're gonna have a kitchen for Christmas.
It's definitely one of those times where it's like, we've got to go with the flow. Like there's so much like obstacles coming up in everybody's lives right now. I'm sure everybody can kind of like feel there's like so many roadblocks. It's like, really, we've just got to take a step back and allow ourselves to go with that flow and navigate.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure everyone's getting those roadblocks, and it's like, you don't know if it's a real roadblock or if someone's just making up an excuse, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess it's good that you said that, because we got to kind of go with the flow, because what are you going to do, right? Exactly. Like, just, if it's going to be slower, it's people's technically lives are in jeopardy possibly, right? So it's like, well, yeah.
I always look at it as if like it's like a test. It's like, Laura, how patient are you really gonna be? like let's go. Come on. Here's something else. I'm like, okay, testing me. It's like always a game.
Oh yeah. That makes sense.
Jen, your internet looks like it's amazing now.
Yeah, I'm on my data. I signed out on my phone. Sorry about that, you guys.
That's okay.
All right. So I think truly and honestly, something that's come up in so many conversations I've been having lately with people are, how am I supposed to make decisions in alignment? And so my first question always is, what does alignment feel like to you? And so I'd love to know in the chat, like, what does alignment mean to you? What does alignment feel to you before we get into this subject? Because it's one of those things that I think we use this term a lot. It's in alignment. I feel aligned, but it's like, what does it mean to you? Like flow, ease, feels good. Awesome. Not sure, totally fine. Walking with purpose.
I'll tell you what I think.
That's awesome.
What alignment is. I think alignment is when you can take like everyday life where it's complete chaos and whatever random stuff, but be at peace all the time, which I think is almost impossible. But you can just, like the flow thing we were just talking about, that's my personal opinion. And I'm just saying, like, I wish I could have an alignment that looked like how I'm going to describe it, where you can just, whatever negative and bad, wrong, you can just be like good. Like you just somehow have this higher sort of power, I guess, that can help you just let it all go and just go, like, deal with it smoothly, maybe, and inner peace, like, which, somehow to get inner peace, basically. That's what my take is when I hear you say that.
I love that. And I love how many people in the comments, thank you, Gregor, also talked about a feeling. How incredible is that, right? Because if you look up the regular definition of alignment in the dictionary, right, it is literally dictated as arrangement or position in a straight line. And so when I read that, I go, okay, well, that's very logical. But if you think about a straight line and you think about your chakra energy centers running all the way down your body, and now here's everyone talking about feelings. How incredible is that? And when we think about alignment, that's exactly what it is. It's about making a decision or tuning into your desires or what it is that you want and having this congruency through you so that you can create. That's what it's all about. It's about knowing what feels right, gives you this fuel for you to create. Whether that's a business, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a conversation, whether it's a purchase. When you are able to feel a decision and it's a desire that aligns with you, you're going to feel, like Gregor said, peace. You're going to feel fuel. You might feel nervous because it's something big. That's okay. But there's nothing or anything that could tell you otherwise. And a lot of the time when we get confused about alignment is because we haven't been able to tune in and tune in to our inner voice and know that feeling. How often do you think about a situation, a person, an activity, anything that you have coming up, and you get a rock in your stomach, right? Feel a rock in your stomach, you feel nauseous, you feel unsure. And instead of allowing that feeling and sit with it to hear what it's trying to tell you, we get in our head and we want to rationalize like a freaking computer all these lists about why we shouldn't do it, and we're back and forth like a badminton game, right? So if you think about it, if we're having to mentally talk ourselves in or out of something, would that not be a very big indication that something about it's not in alignment? If we make a decision based on impulse, and then shame or guilt or doubt sets in. Maybe not fully in alignment. The reason this is so interesting is it can be the littlest things in our lives, and they start to compound, because when we start making decisions based on what feels right for us in that true alignment, tuning into what our body is telling us when we make decisions, it usually doesn't lie. And when we make decisions impulsively using our head, do you notice that afterwards you spend more time thinking about why you didn't say no to something or why you didn't do the other thing than actually doing it anyways? And that's where we start getting this energy drain, right? Because we're so in our head. And so getting out of our head and into our heart, you hear us say this all the time. What does that even mean? It means being able to find a few seconds or a few minutes to sink into your body, tune into your body, and find space in that chatterbox of your brain so that you can start actually recognize those subtle feelings. And no matter how much you do it, it still isn't easy sometimes. I'll give you an example. Today I was going to go see one of my very, very best friends after all my meetings. And last night in bed, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just really tired and don't really have the capacity for more people and I think I should really take the time at home. And then all of a sudden I was like, you haven't seen her in a while. You know, it's been a long time. You told her you were going to be there. Boo-doo. And it kept going and going and going and going until finally I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. First thing I thought about this morning when I woke up, I really need to rest. Then it came up again. Finally, an hour before I called and I said, listen, this is what's been going on with me all day long. I'm so sorry that I'm wasting your time. I don't have capacity to come see you. And her and I broke it down. Now, this is what's important, and this is what's not important. This is what's really interesting. When we make decisions out of alignment, most of the time, it's because of an experience in the past. What I realized with Amanda, my very good friend who I consider family, is that my family, when I used to have to say no to something or change the plans for something that was really important to me, I would get guilted. I would be told you don't balance your life enough, you work too much, you don't make time for your family. And the guilt and shame associated with me saying no or changing plans based on what I needed was so strong that I would just never even bother. And I would always go through with it no matter what. And so that's just a little bit of an example of when we make decisions out of our head, it's very interesting that they most of the time stem back to other experiences. Does that make sense to everyone? Does that resonate? And if we're using most of our time to talk ourselves in or out of decisions, well, we're wasting a lot of freaking energy, my friends. And with the energy that's going around in the universe right now, for all of you light beings on here who are literally standing in the power of your own light, of your own source, of your own alignment, of your own divine calling, we don't got time to waste. So my biggest hope is that we can all take a few extra seconds to make decisions, no matter how big or how small, and test yourself. Think about a food that you don't like. Where do you feel it in your body? Think about someone that you're angry with. Where do you feel it in your body? And then, if you want to take it a step further to release those lower frequency vibrations, breathe into that spot. Maybe you can release a little bit of anger. Maybe you can release a little bit of frustration. Maybe you can release a little bit of judgment on yourself. But test it. It actually ends up being really fun.
I love that so much, Jen. So good. I know for me too, like that's huge. Like taking that time to like get out of your head. And we live in a society that has like trained us to just be living in our heads all of the time, right? Like basically like the majority of society is here. And that's why nobody actually knows when you say, how are you feeling? Most people don't even know what to say anymore because we're so caught up in our heads, right? And I know I can relate to that whole thing about like feeling like you have to do things or you should be doing things and that obligation, it's all coming out of that scarcity mindset. Whereas when you come out of that abundance place where everything is abundant and we start using our throats and actually saying the things of how we feel. Not only are we going to be following our own alignment, but we're also teaching other people it's okay to follow their own alignment as well. And I know for me, like I was somebody who growing up, I always would do for everybody else, right? Put your hand up if you're one of those people. We more than likely basically all of us are, except for Joe, because he's just sitting there flexing on us. That's okay though. But yeah, like we're so ingrained to do things for everybody else. And I know I learned this from other people. And when people would back out on me last minute, or they would set those boundaries with me, I would get mad. Like I would get angry at them for bailing on me, and it would affect my worthiness. Like I would feel like they didn't want to be with me, or I wasn't good enough, or it would bring up all of these different triggers inside of me. But like I saw that as like, I'm like, you know what? Like it's kind of cool, because anytime I get triggered and it starts bringing up these emotions, it has nothing to do with anybody in the exterior world. It has everything to do with stuff that's being brought up inside of me that I need to heal. Because in reality, everything in our external environment that we take in with any of our senses is all just here for our own benefit and our own good. So when I started seeing that, I started seeing how other people were setting these boundaries. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so they said no to doing this. And even though they said that they would go to this, but like an hour or two before, they said that they weren't feeling well or not feeling up for it, it made it okay for me to start doing that. And I learned from other people setting those boundaries, even though originally I was being triggered by them, because it was my own worthiness that was affected by it. Right. So as we continue to go on this journey, just whenever you're being triggered by things, understanding that like it has nothing to do with anybody else, and it all has something to do with you. And another big thing that like really resonated with what Jen said was taking the time to go from your head into your body. Right? When we start recognizing that we're actually up here, we're over analyzing, oh, like this person bailed on me, oh, like this, like whatever, like all of these thoughts in our heads, like take that second to sink into your body. Because when we take that moment to actually pause and slow down and stop, we then start seeing there's different avenues we can take. Right? When we're so go in our head, we don't see there's different avenues. We're tunnel visioned on one thing because whatever our mind is fixating on, right? So when we can actually stop and recognize that pattern of our minds going, slow down, and then start being like, okay, now that I'm feeling my body, where am I feeling it? But now what other avenues do I have? And I know for me, like when somebody like would text me back and I would get triggered or something, and like I would think that they're meaning other things, like texting is like the worst for that. But like I would usually always respond back while I'm in those emotions, and it would never end up well. It never ends up well, like ever, And it was like I started learning from other people that wouldn't text back right away. It would maybe take them a day later, but it's like, who cares if it takes you a day later, 2 days later? Get out of your shit, get out of your emotions, and like literally like sit with it and be like, okay, why did this trigger me? What is going on inside of me that is making me feel this way? I don't care if it takes you a week to get back to this person. Like, who cares, right? Take that time for yourself to be able to do it. There's no obligation to get back to anybody else at any certain timeline. There's no contract that we signed with our friends or our family saying, you must respond back within 2 hours of me texting you. No, it's something that we all made up. It's these rules that we're able to just break. And when we can start doing that, you're going to start realizing, like Jen said, you start slowing down. And Gregor, I know you mentioned this too about all of these incoming things. I challenge you, when you start to slow down and you start to insource that internal peace, right? You start closing your eyes, you start focusing on your breath, you start doing your box breathing, like count as high as you can. If you can do it like with 10, great. 10's like pretty aggressive if you're just starting with breath work, but like count to 5 with your inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go out your belly, out your chest, hold it for 5 seconds. And then exhale for 5 seconds, and then hold that exhale for 5 seconds. Inhale slow for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds until you start feeling slow again. Because your mind will slow down when you slow your body down. It has no choice, because your vagus nerve, it'll literally, like, your body will do it automatically. So once you're in that slower state, then you're then able to actually like rationally think about things, about how you're feeling, and then make moves. Now you unmuted yourself, Gregor. Go for it.
No, that makes perfect sense. I'm gonna try really hard to remember what you just said, because I totally have that problem. Like, and I get distracted. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's I need to be self-employed because I get distracted too much.
It's
I
me.
can't get I can't I can't get fired. But that's sometimes a bad thing.
She was like, Laura, can you post the graphic for Together We Rise tonight? I'm like, yeah, for sure. This is at like 11 o'clock. She texts me at 4 o'clock. She's like, or 5 o'clock. She's like, Laura, did you post the tile? I'm like, oh dear God, no, I didn't. Post the tile. But yeah, it helps a lot. Like, just try to think of that. Like, just think of me like saying to you, okay, Gregor, get out of your head, into your body.
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I'm gonna remember your voice and you doing that. Totally. Because it's the worst. Like, you get it all day long. It's like, and it's always random stuff, like, I don't know. We know so many people and they're always randomly hitting at us. Like, I got to work on that. I'm glad we're talking about it, because I get distracted so much. And it's like, it doesn't go with the flow thing we were talking about. Like, I'm not actually, that's what I remembered. The one thing I didn't say about the flow, and I'm only just speaking my mind because we're talking about it, is like all these people coming at us with texts and emails and blah, 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 taking me off my center, like off the path I need to be going on constantly, like this way, this way, this way. And it's like I'm trying to visualize it as we're talking about it. It'll help me.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another way to think about it too, if we're talking about alignment, right? So if we break down, we always talk about emotions, we always talk about feeling, we always talk about flow. And you know what? When we're in that moment, it can be really difficult to catch the trigger. Yet, if you think about your physical body, okay, and its main purpose, it's to literally give us accurate moment-to-moment feedback, right? Think about how much our physical body does without us even thinking about it. Digesting food, our beating heart, our breath, right? Regulating temperature, circulation. Our body does so much without our mind, right? So what if that same body was giving us feedback every single moment of the day towards our decisions and choices? And a lot of the time, what happens when we have all of these things coming in, right? We choose to be distracted by them. And we choose to be distracted by them because somewhere along the way, we were told that we were wrong, less than, or unworthy because we didn't do an action that someone else expected from us. So if our entire day is being depicted by other people's requests of us, it leaves very little time to tune into that feedback of our own body for our alignment. And that's something I am a hopefully soon to be retired people pleaser. And that was a huge shift for me when I made the decision that every morning, my first 30 minutes minimum, absolutely no phone. Because you know what happens when we touch our phone? Everyone else's alignment, everyone else's decisions, everyone else's needs become first. And we don't even have time to center into our own being so that we now have that starting point for the day of what feels right and what doesn't feel right. It's a huge game changer in the morning. And so Gregor, if that's something that you're working towards, of like being able to find those triggers first thing in the morning before you touch your phone, before you answer to anyone else, tune into how you're feeling. Because that becomes your gauge, right? And it's very amazing when we override the feeling of being out of alignment. My feeling of being out of alignment is excessive, like almost like this like anxiety reactionary, I start reacting. And then I start not sleeping. And that's how I know I'm out of alignment. For some people, it's in their gut. For some people, it's like fuzzy eyes. Everyone has their own thing. But until we know what that inner peace feels like, which you talked about earlier, once we know what peace feels like, which is when we wake up in the morning without distraction or anyone else's needs in our lives, we can find that peaceful state. And then all we need to do different parts of the day is tune in and go, do I still feel that way? Yes or no? No? Okay, what is it that I can do right now to shift my state? Do I need to breathe? Am I spending too much time on something that doesn't really matter? Have I thought about myself today? It's amazing how all of the little things in our lives add up to that feeling of alignment.
And to chime on there too, I love everything you just said, Jen. It's so good. And Carolyn, I know you put in the chat, that's an interesting concept. I'm listening about like how it's a moment to moment feedback, our emotions, and actually only takes 6 seconds for what's in your head to become an emotion. That's how quick this happens. So it literally is. Quite yet, because we're so up here. So the more you practice and the more you come down into your physical body and the more you start catching yourself in these emotions, you're actually going to have that moment to moment feedback. So that's why it's huge to be able to catch ourselves in there. And I know I've shared this before, and I know Carolyn, you know about this, but setting reminders on your phone randomly throughout your day, just to ask yourself, how are you feeling in your body right now? Right? Just random reminders throughout the day. Pop up on your phone. How am I feeling in my body right now? Just check in with yourself, because a lot of the time we'll be sitting in these emotions for sometimes hours, maybe even a full day before we start realizing that we need to ground ourselves. We need to center ourselves. So having those random reminders are an amazing way to start retraining your mind to actually start listening to your body, right? It's your intuition. It's our sixth sense, but humans have fallen out of that to be able to actually listen to it. And it truly is, guys, like literally Jen and I freak ourselves out sometimes with like this stuff. Like what your intuition will get so strong, and you'll start getting these feelings about all different things, and you can start testing it. Like literally I have like the strongest like intuitive feelings sometimes. And I'm like, I don't know the timeline of my intuition yet, but I'll actually understand when things are going to happen in my life. And I just don't know the timing of it yet. I haven't figured that out yet. But like the more you tap into this, like you will literally start having superpowers with this. And and how Jen said, waking up in the morning, most of the time, like, do you guys find like you wake up in the morning with a clear head or no? No? Okay, good. Cause I used to be the exact same way. I would wake up, and actually in the morning, as soon as I woke up, because what happens when we go to bed with a crazy scattered mind, throughout the night, our brain is still doing that. We're sleeping, yet our brain is still repeating all of those things like a pinball machine around our head. And we wake up in the morning and we're like, what the heck is going on? Like my head is so whatever. So I want to, like, if you feel like you wake up like that, I want to encourage you to have a journal by your bed and brain dump. It doesn't matter what the heck comes out of your head. Literally just take it out of here and put it on here. Because as soon as you have that pinball that's going around, as soon as you take out that pinball and just write it down, it's satisfied. Everything in our head just wants to be seen, heard, and understood. Literally, that's it. That's all it wants. So as we continue to start taking things out, right, as Jen said, alignment, creation, all creation is taking stuff from the inside and bringing it to the outside world. That's what humans are here for, right? Everything around us has been created by a human. You don't see dogs building houses, right? It's all from humans.
To the morning thing, can I add to that? Because you just so brilliant what you just said. I'm like getting all excited now. When you wake up, okay, this was me. This is classic me. You wake up in the morning, and for those who know me, I'm not an early riser. And so I used to wake up, and the first thing I would think is like, oh my God, what time it is? Oh, I missed this. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do all these things. I need to. Okay. If you're in your head first thing in the morning saying, I need to, what does need mean? Need means lack. So if you are constantly starting your day out of a lack mindset, a scarcity mindset, you are setting yourself up for an entire day of needing to catch up. The power of the word. When you wake up in the morning and you hear your mind saying, I need to, you go, no, I get to spend a couple of minutes tuning into me. I get to. I don't need anything. Because look at this. We are completely blessed divine beings with everything coming in. And here's the most beautiful thing. If alignment means to create, if being in alignment means that you now have the fuel to create, creating is manifesting. Yes? Manifesting starts with the word. And not just spoken word, the word in your mind. What you focus on expands. Starting at the beginning of the day, need, lack, or I get to, abundance, gratitude, the difference. When you're making a decision, I need to go see my friend Amanda today. I was already coming into that decision from a place of scarcity, lack, guilt, or shame, low frequency, out of alignment. It all comes together. So incredible. Sorry, Laura, as soon as you said morning, I'm like, oh my God, yes.
No, that's perfect. I love that. And like, just to like add on to that too, like there's no right or wrong, guys, right? Like it's literally like you get to be like the CEO of your life. You get to decide what feels good or what doesn't. I used to be the same where in the morning, like I couldn't go on my phone. Like I literally couldn't because I would feel it draining the life out of me. Now, what do I do as soon as I wake up? I'm right on my phone and I love it. I'm like looking at funny videos and I'm like just like scrolling through like the meme page and I'm loving it. You know, it's like that fuels me. So like everything that we talk about, it's like you've got to experience and then you've got to like have that feedback. That's how we learn, right? Like we go through life. It doesn't matter whether one person was successful this way. You could try the exact same way that they did. And sure, you might get there if you force yourself to do it that way. Yet if you actually tune into how you're feeling while you're doing this, are you legitimately in alignment? Maybe not. Just because one person got there when their success that way, who knows? Maybe they were out of alignment the whole way they got there. Like, what is success? Is it just that financial, or what is it? Or a success in alignment, doing everything out of alignment, right? It's all like an interpretation of what you want to make out of it. So everything that we share, it's like, try it out and see how it feels for you, because what works for me may not work for you, but what works for Victoria might work for some people. Like, that's why this is so cool that we just get to share. So I would love like to just open this up, and if anybody has anything else to share, then like feel free, have at her. Anything that works for you, didn't work for you, you want any feedback, anything.
Christy, I noticed in the comments you wrote an interesting thing about the imperative versus indicative language, and I love the way you explained that. Could you share a little bit more on that? Because I know that aligns so much with the work you do with values.
Yeah, so a while back, and I think it's still in the group, I did something on your hierarchy of values, and I had a small exercise where everybody showed, like, I wanted you to write 3 things that you start your day with, or you start your, a sentence with, that I need to, have to, should, ought to. And when you're writing that out, how does it feel energetically? Do you feel contracted, tight, heavy, head down? And pay attention to your body's reaction, because it will tell you as you're physically writing it out, versus the actual indicative language of I get to, I choose to, I love to, I want to, I'm excited to. And we did this, and Carolyn was our guinea pig for that one. And you could completely see the opposite end of the spectrum when it came to the language, and how she was excited about, she loves to travel and seeing her family and all of those things. But then some of the other things that she had to do or needed to do, it could just, the voice level changed, her posture changed. So choosing that language is so, so important. And one of the things that I love, that I practice to this day, I learned from Deepak Chopra, it's called the STOP method, STOP. So when you feel that, and I resonate so much with what Gregor says, because, you're in sales, you're trying to get people going and provide an excellent service, and you want people to have a great product. And I feel the same way when I'm in my medical device world. But when I feel that moment of overwhelm and frustration, or whatever, anxiety, I use the STOP method, and I just say it out loud, stop. And what it stands for is stop, take a deep breath. Hold on, Peanut. Observe. Like, be the observer, and then proceed with kindness and compassion. So if that might be something easy to remember, but I love that. But it's truly, and I catch myself all the time, the minute I'm like, God, I should, yep. I catch myself all the time. So it's really, really, the P is proceed with kindness and compassion, Jen. And that's really the name of the game too, because as to piggyback on Laura, we're all learning and growing at our own pace and our own journey. We're in our own lanes. And, when we stumble and fall, it doesn't mean that it's like the game over. It's like, okay, so it's kind of like Monopoly, right? You pass go, you don't pass go, you go directly to jail, but eventually you roll the dice and you're out and you start the game again. And you just have to be a little bit more strategic the next time. And I think language is the foundation of all of it. That's
Oh
it.
my God, so good. Christy, I almost feel like we need to do another value session because like, I love when you talk about that so much. Thank you.
I can share a little bit about just what that sort of makes me think about personally, about my own experience with alignment, let's just say. I'd say that I feel like it's super crazy how you notice when you start living a life that is very, authentic, true to who you really are. And you notice how it's like your alignment with yourself also. It's a reflection of your alignment with all these other things that you're connected to, So if you're aligned with yourself and then something around you, you don't connect as well. Like say you're really, aligned, you feel you're aligned, and then you don't connect with, say, your job or something. It's like, because maybe that's not for you anymore, because you're raising your vibration, and you notice how your alignment with these things around you, or these people around you, suddenly you're not aligned with them anymore because they don't vibrate at the same frequency. They're not part of your new journey. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my experience, where I just find that there's so many. I've definitely made some big changes in my life, and I do notice all these things that are no longer part of that alignment with who I am today. Maybe they were aligned with who I was months ago, but not anymore. So, for me to stay in that alignment, it's like you're forced to, do all these little cleanup around, of I want to say people, but anyways, that's my view on it, my experience. So.
I love that so much, Derek. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's so true, right? Like it's this constant, never ending like journey of like reshifting, because we're shifting, yet every other human being on this planet is shifting just as much, right? So it's this constant flux. And that's why I love communities like this, where there's acceptance of whatever you're going through, right? Like I know like there's quite a few of us here that are in Ottawa, and it's like if we say have a get together and people can't show up, it's like we don't hold resentment against those people, because it's maintaining that alignment. So understanding that sometimes people are going to come and go, and that's okay. Yet some people just don't understand that, like you said, you kind of outgrow other people. And I can relate to that a lot. Like everybody goes through this as we choose to tap into ourselves and grow. There's going to be other people that not necessarily that they're not growing, yet they maybe are growing on a different path. Right? I truly believe that every human is always growing, yet sometimes one person might choose my relationships as a priority, another person may choose my finances as a priority. Yet if you want to be like have a friendship or a relationship with somebody that's really dedicated to their finances, then it's not necessarily going to match, right? So it's like literally it's like about having that like ease, right? It's like having ease with people and being easy on people and understanding that it's going to happen. And I love like the thing, it's like some people will be in your life for a short period of time and they'll make a really big impact. Some people will be here for a long time. And as humans, if we stop putting this attachment and attaching these ropes to everybody that's in our life, thinking that people are going to be there for a long time, or having these expectations, like Jen said, then we can truly just allow this flow to happen and allow our own soul to go on these journeys as they're going to go, so that we can all learn the lessons that we're meant to learn on these journeys. And another big thing, like what you shared too, is also like protection of your energy. And a lot of the time too, like I know, like for me, like when I started shifting careers, it was the same. It was like when I was in my paramedic job, I hated it. And I really wish I knew at that point what I know now, because when I was in that job, I wouldn't have hated it. It was such a blessing, right? So it's like what we focus on expands. So I was looking at all of the lack. But when I actually look at what that career brought me, it was like, if I had have had the mindset that I have now, even though I was transitioning out of it, it's okay. But having that protection up, and every time we go into these situations where maybe we know that these people we don't necessarily agree with, or we've got those that different outlooks on life, because there's no right or wrong outlook. It's just different. So when we can be able to put up that energy protection and just like close your eyes before you go into that event. I remember like sharing this with my sister. She had to go to like this thing and she like really didn't want to go. And I'm like, before you go, just be in your car and like close your eyes, put up like your force field, and like just say like, nobody can fuck with my vibes. Like, these are my vibes. Like, I've got this. Like, literally like talk yourself into it. And then you go into that situation, you're like a freaking superhero. You can maintain your frequency and you're not going to let anybody else mess with your vibes, you know? And like, if we can continue just doing that in like every circumstance, it's going to start changing everything. And then like, you're going to find that relationships kind of like start working better, because then it's like, even if they are people necessarily that you don't want to be around like all the time, it's like, it's okay that they're still in your life. You'll obviously limit your time you spend with them, but you don't need to just like cut them off, right? Because that's that toxic positivity where we think, oh, like I'm better. It still has that hierarchy, that weird hierarchy that like spiritual people come into this and they're like, oh, I'm spiritual, you know, like those muggles, those people that like aren't spiritual, they're just in this matrix and all of this stuff. It's like, it's still out of hate. You know, it's like, if you truly understand, it's like, no, every human is just here doing the best that they freaking can, you know? So it's like, just like keeping all of this in mind while we're doing it. And we're never going to be perfect. Like Christy said, like, it's about having grace for ourselves, right? It's like, I went to the dollar store like last week, and this poor lady was just up in an uproar because her morning was just horrible. And this was at like 5 p.m. and she's still replaying this like in her head. And she's going on, she's like, I'm like, how are you? She's like, oh, it's been the worst day. She's like, it was the worst morning. She's like, I literally, like, I was slept in, the kids were horrible. Like, I had to run around and grab my stuff. Then I almost missed the bus because there was a truck parked there. I had to run after the bus, like fell off the bus and like banged my knee and like broke a nail. And then she got robbed. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is horrible. And like, she literally was like still replaying this in her head, like that whole time. And I felt so bad afterwards because I'm laughing, because I'm like, I asked her about the robbery, and literally this person, I thought somebody had a gun with the distress she had, you know, but this person literally just walked out and she didn't even notice the person robbed her. So in my mind, I'm like, yo, like this like your day could be so much worse. Oh my gosh. Right. But then I had to think, I'm like, oh my God, no, like humans, like we don't know differences of emotions, right? What is very stressful for me, a level of stress for me may be a completely different level of stress for somebody else. And I caught myself in that moment. And then I literally had a horrible moment where I'm like, Laura, you're a horrible person. And I started guilting myself. I started shaming myself, and I got the worst heaviness in my chest. And I had to like literally like work myself through that, because I was attaching these emotions of guilt and shame for even thinking that, you know? But it's like, we're human, so we have to have grace with ourselves. Like I literally, like I did, if you were in Melissa's thing where she taught us this, whenever you're in those emotional states, either like anger, frustration, shame, like that, literally push against a wall as hard as you can and just keep pushing against that wall. And I was just replaying like the thought, like, Laura, like you're horrible for saying this about this poor lady. Like she was having a horrible day. And here I am like, wow, she was like really lit up about that. And push against the wall as hard as you can and think about it until you can't push against that wall any longer, and the emotion will be gone. And it's such a good way to be able to process those emotions. So little side story.
Does anyone else have anything that comes up about any of this? Anything you want to share?
I feel like I could share a few things. I think everybody that shared some great things there, and the values and how you start your morning and where you're giving your energy to, it all really makes sense. And I would say like 3-4 years ago when I started learning this stuff, I'd hear it, but I'd never seen it like really come into action. So I didn't 100% believe it. But with the community like this and learning the tools and then implementing the tools and then seeing how they gradually just continue to work, I started to believe in them. And our subconscious mind really controls a majority of what we do. It's pre-programmed, all these different things, right? The whole, hey, I wake up in the morning, oh, I need a dopamine hit, I grab my phone, right? A lot of people do that and you give it away. And I heard the morning right away, the first thing you do, and I mean, I don't push God on people, whatever you believe in, the universe, higher power, but I wake up every single morning. I don't think I've missed a single day this year. And I just say, thank you, God, you gave me another day to kick ass, right? And I've done that and I've looked at it and I come to my journal and I say, thank you again. And I start journaling all these things out. But I talk in the future tense a lot of times. because the first 10 minutes I lay in bed after my alarm, I set a 15-minute alarm ahead just in case I not back out. But for the next 10 minutes, the night before, I had looked at my calendar and I know how my day is supposed to go. Now, is it going to go that way? More than likely, not completely. There's going to be some things that come up. But for the first 10 minutes of my morning, I visualize every single thing, like Laura's done before too, getting out of bed, going to brush the teeth, getting a workout in, I'm stretching, I'm reading my book, first interactions, meetings, and I'm deciding how those interactions, those meetings go in my head. Like I said, they don't always go that way, but then at the end of the night, I reevaluate and I say, all right, well, how did this situation happen? How did that one? And Christy said, do I get to, do I have to, do I need to, all of those things, right? Or I say, all right, how do I get to handle this situation better next time? What am I going to do better next time about that? Oh, you did a good job, but what can I do better? And that's how I just keep reevaluating. It's worked completely for me. And I've continuously wrote down the goals and objectives and the different things that I really want to achieve this year. And he said, it's been a challenging year for everybody, right? We've gotten a lot of different things thrown at us, but look at everybody here trying to get better, saying, you know what, I've been through some stuff, but I'm still here. I'm still kicking ass, I'm still dominating all this stuff. I've got loads of work that I have no idea how I'm going to get done, but people are calling me. What a blessing. A lot of people don't have jobs. I'm overwhelmed with work, right? Like I started hitting some goals and just like this IsaBody thing, right? That was a big goal of mine at the beginning of the year. And I wrote in a letter, and I'd read the letter every single day of Jim and Kathy calling me, telling me that I was an IsaBody finalist. They never called me. Somebody else did though, right? And then I was like, I can picture myself walking across stage, getting that title, being awarded it, and the things I'm going to say. Well, guess what? It's virtual this year, so can't do that, right? But all these things kind of happen. So the more you program your mind the night before of what you want the day to go with, then you wake up the next morning, you're reprogramming your subconscious because it doesn't know what's real and what's fake. So right before you go to bed, you're telling it what's real. The next morning, you're retelling it again what is going to be real. And it starts reprogramming it and things just start to trickle into place. So I hope a couple of those night, morning, and rituals maybe throw a little benefit at some of you because it's worked a ton for me.
I wish I had a drum just to drum roll you out of that, because that was fire, Mr. Fennig. Fire!
Actually, yeah, you know, it's so cool what you were saying, you know, those rituals are so important. And recently, I just want to share quickly, like I actually recorded it's like a hypnosis sort of that I made for myself, right? So it's just me telling myself, you're awesome, you're so great, you had you're gonna have the best sleep ever tonight. You know, I'm just like motivating myself, you know, and I started listening to it kind of like an experiment, just like, let's see, you know. But I swear, like, it actually makes a difference, you know. And it's, anyways, so it's just a little tip that something that worked for me, anyways. So
I can really relate to everything that you guys just said. And before I forget, I got to tell you that when it was like, it wasn't that long ago where I contacted Jen and I just jumped into this thing, and I had no idea there was a community, and I had no idea that I would be sitting here today and listening to like positive, like all this positive mindset and flow, which it's blowing my mind. I just got to tell you that I feel so lucky to like just be part of even this right here, because it's rare and we don't always get that. And like I deal with other things, like other, you know, like I volunteer at some places where a lot of people have mental issues and things like that. And I have struggled seriously in my past, right? And so this is like the final, I started a journey maybe say 6 years ago, right? And this is like, I'm still building my foundation, and all of a sudden I just jump into this not knowing what it is. And it's like so much, it's a huge community with like so many things that I didn't even have any idea. And honestly, I was just thinking, oh, I just need to eat better. That's what I was thinking. Just a little healthier, maybe have some vitamins. And this is like a million times better. I'm so excited. Like, I just want to let you guys know that I'm super like glad to be part of this. And then before I get too long, what Joel said and Derek said really resonated with me. Everything else did too, but in particular, those are the most recent right now, is something that I did for say, you know, the first like 3 years or something, literally every day I was like, I believe in myself, I believe in myself, until I did, you know, because I had lost faith in myself. You know, I'd gone through like some, you know, a divorce and things like that. It was extremely difficult. And I lost my core. I lost me, you know, and it's so like makes me feel great that you guys are giving me all these ideas on keeping my alignment and things like making sure I'm good with me, you know. And so like you guys have those morning rituals and whatever, but one thing that was really good, and I was talking to actually a whole group of people. I do that sometimes. I'll speak in front of people about believing in yourself. And it's so amazing to hear it from you guys. It's just reinforcing that I think, you know, I'm on the right track. And I just thank you for just being part of my life now. It's kind of cool. So anyways, that's it.
Gregor, my cheeks hurt from smiling. You just gave me a full-blown love attack. You're so incredible. Thank you so much. And when you said that, you reminded me, thank you so much. Before we sign off tonight, mental health, it's a really big thing. And we heard from her last week, Dr. Delray Messer, and she's absolutely incredible. And not only her, but she's brought on 4 other women who are all doctors and specialists in their own field. And they're hosting a mental health summit tomorrow night. It's by donation. And so all of the proceeds are going to the ISA Foundation. And also, oh my goodness, I'm going blank. Anyways, one other
Headwaters Relief.
Yep, Headwaters.
Headwaters. And so I think that's really powerful. Like you said, Gregor, it's like people don't even know that there's community out there. And this event, it's in Together We Rise. We'll bring it to the top of the page again. It's going to be an amazing event. And it's not just for us, it's for anyone. And I think that every single human being can use any tools or tips or discussion on mental health. So we'll put that at the top. If you know anyone or yourself, I'll definitely be there who would benefit from this. Please just pass it around. And I know that we can all rise up and together we rise. And thank you for sharing, every single one of you. I'm emotional tonight now in a good way, hearing from all of you. And just thank you for showing up and being raw and real. It's such a gift.
Thank you, everybody. And just to finish it off, that event's going to be so incredible tomorrow. And just know, guys, this is a platform in which if you know anybody in your lives that could really benefit from having this platform, like Jen and I created this so we could grow it, because we truly do believe that everybody deserves access to these free resources, right? We didn't learn this stuff in school yet. We're providing this platform to just be able to provide this community in these times, as well as this free education. So if you know anybody in your personal lives that you know will benefit from this, feel free to just invite them into this group, like tell them about it, invite them into the group, and then invite them onto these Wednesday calls so that they can check it out themselves, because we all know how much this community and being here. And we always say, like, Wednesday nights, we need our sleep spray because we're literally bouncing off the walls after these calls at 9 o'clock and we can't sleep, you know? But it's like having this energy, like to be refueled every single week, is massive. So if you know anybody in your lives that right now could benefit from something like this, then feel free to tap them into this community. It's an open community. We trust all of the people that you bring into this as well. So thank you, everybody, for such an incredible night again tonight. We love you all so much.